I'd like to call the Milner Township Board of Commissioners Budget Workshop Meeting, October 19th to order. Will you all please rise for a pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Welcome. Lovely game. Decided to bring that on a Saturday morning. But as you saw the email that I sent, Dawn, Joe, Jim, and I met several weeks ago to kind of fine tune the budget for this meeting and go through with some recommendations. Obviously, they're just recommendations. The majority of the board will have to make the decisions on what we do. So as we've done in the past, feel free to Dawn will lead the conversation. Feel free to ask any questions, like usual, unfortunately. We are in an operational deficit. If we do take some of the recommendations, as you've seen, it will reduce that significantly. But then again, we really don't have any additional staff in this budget, but in the general budget, I should say, but the works and person. So Dawn, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, so obviously, like Mike said, we are going to be talking, our main focus obviously is going to be in the general fund. That's our major operating fund. It helps support the other funds. So we're starting with that, we'll go to, and we will discuss the fire fund. Although not classified anymore as a major fund, we still separate it from the general fund. And then we'll talk about proposed capital, and then we'll summarize with the ambulance fund. So we can skip right to page 4. And like Mike said, the 2025 draft budget wasn't prepared with any increase in taxes or fees. It does include the hiring of public park maintenance employee, and that's just to fill a vacant position. It's not an additional position. The wage increases were per the CBAs, and I have the medical benefits projected to be around 9%. That number was given to us from Pentagon. We didn't get the actual yet. I figure we'll get that in the next 2 weeks probably or so. So hopefully comes in a little less, but lately we have been trending at the 9%. So I'd rather budget the worst case scenario. And we're going to continue to contribute the 75 annual contribution to the library, plus they do the fundraising effort. So whatever they do, we match up to 10. We match them up to 10%. I mean 10,000, sorry. So turning on to the next slide.
Dawn, just for Rick and Dylan, for our new commissioners, we don't vote on the salaries of all the staff until December. We got thrown in for the non-union staff, so we'll vote on that December, but you have built it onto the budget.
Yes, I did. Yes, yeah. So this slide just shows you how we've been doing and our fund balance, whether it's a deficit or a surplus. The 2023 is the actual, I did what we budgeted and how we actually ended. However, in 2023, we ended very well. We actually had 1.6 million over our revenue, our revenue was over expenses. However, we show a loss because we took 1.6 million to for capital purchases. So using that, I don't have the final audit is still not published. I haven't received it yet. So these are just, I use the budgeted numbers for 2024. However, I do feel we will come in without a loss. I'm hoping, even with our transfers to capital. I think right now I might have already transferred 900,000 to capital. I think that's what I have. And then obviously the next numbers are the budgeted numbers for the coming year, for next year. And it shows we have roughly an operational deficit of $503,000. So I'd like to just start with the real estate tax, just give a big overview, because obviously real estate taxes are a major funding source for the township. And this just shows the breakdown between the county, the school district, and our millage. I put our total millage, our general fund millage is 4.6, but anyways, I just wanted to show the whole piece of the pie, as we say. And as you can see, 72% of resident taxes go to the school district, where our portion is, 11%, it gets about 17. And then on the next slide, on page 8, this would just be showing the value if, what the value is at an assessed value of home of 200, at 100, 200, 300, what they pay, the school, the county, and us. And as you can see, the average, assessed value, for 2024 for residential, I mean, this isn't including any commercial properties, just residential property, is around $95,000, $96,000. So out of that, the township gets roughly almost $500. And that same resident would pay roughly $3,500 to the school district and $800 to the county. And then on page 9, the highlighted value there, that is 2024's assessed value. Usually the assessment doesn't fluctuate that much. It could go down a little, up a little. Doesn't have a major impact on what we bring in as far as that. So this slide just shows you what it would be if we increase tax by 10 per mil, 1/10, 2/10, or 3/10 per mil, what we would bring in. And again, really, it's a very small amount that affects the budget. I mean, you see a 10 per mil roughly brings in 116, 17,000, and 3/10 of a mil will be around 350,000. We'll just move on to the revenue portion, and again, there's a nice little pie chart to show everything, and again, like I said, real estate taxes in the blue is the majority of our revenue. Real estate transfer, we've been doing very well with that. And so far, I know Kevin and I spoke, or maybe it was Commissioner Wolfinger, we've been trending very well, and I haven't really seen it slow down too much. We get an awful lot of service for sales of property, and property transfer, and so far we've been doing pretty good. Hopefully that continues. I take what we've been doing over the years, look at the economy, sometimes we do better than I predict. Actually, that's probably how it's been lately. Earned income tax has been doing very well. And that I did increase this year to 3.5 million because we've been trending very well. Business privilege tax bringing in about 1.2 million. Local services at 750. And obviously the little amusement tax. Licensing and permits, we do pretty well with our licensing. We get an awful lot of people doing a lot of things to their homes, and then charges for services. The major driver there obviously is our trash and our refuse and collection monies we bring in. And then we have grant and revenue that we get from this includes our pension and everything else. So. Then on the next slide, revenue is about 600,000 over what was budgeted for last year. That's like a 3.4% higher than last year. And the most significant increase, like I said in the prior slide, was the 300,000 that I bumped up for earned income tax because we are trending higher this year. We already have pretty much there. So overall, that gives us the 600,000 more from the prior year. So the next thing we're going to talk about is, like I said, nothing was prepared with any tax increase or changes in any fee. But looking at when we met, we were talking about the contract, the trash contract is up at the end of next year with the option to extend till 2027. So we went back and I evaluated, you know, when we first did this contract, we wanted to cover 5 years at an average cost. Well, who would have predicted that healthcare in the past 3 years was going to rise 9% and, you know, things. So obviously numbers change. Well, when I went back and used actual numbers, you'll see that the 350 really only covered the forward up to this year, the end of this year. So I went and worked on what the projections were gonna be for 25, 26, and 27, if you choose to extend the contract. So that average to cover that cost is around $400 a year, which is $50 a year more. Yeah. So it's 25 more a bill
Yeah.
as we go.
And just so the board knows, when we met and we discussed it, I think actually it was initially to give credit, it was Joey's idea, is if you look, when we rebid the trash, we're already probably on the lower end. And we can't get revenue anywhere else. And it's the only revenue we get where we can actually be a little fair because we do give seniors a discount that don't, you know what I mean, just hammer the millage, everybody gets it. And we haven't increased it, and our expenses have gone up for 4 years.
Right.
So where else can we get revenue and make it more palatable? That it should probably been incrementally increased, but we never really did that. Because our costs went up. So it's obviously up to the majority of the board. I think we're gonna get a little sticker shock when we do have to bid it eventually. If you're looking around at other municipal bids are through the roof. Compared to what we pay now, but this is just a simple way to try to be a little fair to the community and do something where we haven't really raised this in several years. So it's up to the board, but if we don't do this, that brings the operational deficit substantially higher, right? Don't I forget what is, if we don't do anything.
If we don't do it.
Yeah,
Well, I don't have it in there, so the operation budget basically stays the same except for their fees and they go up in fees that we have to cover, yeah, so.
so while we're on this topic, we might as well make a decision about it. I mean, whatever the board, you know, feel free to ask any questions, don't Jim, we talked about it at length, but we thought this was one of the tougher but fairer things to do across the community.
And another thing that affects this number is we do, back when we first started this, we weren't taking credit card payments, now we do. And the board had elected that we absorb the fee, so those fees weren't really in there before, so. More and more citizens or residents are paying, you know, online or with credit card, which is great, but it's there's costs associated with it that wasn't there. And then
The other thing too is, I asked Jim this, I think, we don't charge, or it costs us what, about 40 grand a year to maintain the swale.
Well, yes, depending on volume.
So if you're looking at all of trash and recycling, that's kind of another additional cost. We don't charge residents that could really be wrapped up per se in this type of.
And I'd just like to let the board know, Allentown just rebid their trash contract with Mascaro, and they went from about $460 next year. It's going to be $650, and then it's going over $700 the second year. So we will probably see a significant increase in our services. So maybe raising it a little bit now will reduce the sticker shock in the coming years.
If we just go out, just take it, don't you just want to bidder?
Yeah, no,
I think you should stick with it.
what do you guys think?
I in total agree. In fact, I actually mentioned the senior discount. You know, it's hard to take things away.
Yeah,
But looking at page 9, I'm sorry, page 8. Have people get hammered, and it's not fair.
yeah.
And I look at what my villages and urban villages, and it's not fair. And a lot of the older people have a discount because they're in an older house. But I totally agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm in agreement too. Incremental is always a little bit better than waiting for, when Joey told me what happened in Allentown, my jaw just dropped open. And that's a huge number, just for trash removal. And
It's essentially double for the residents.
And I can't speak to what their operational costs are. I'm sure there's a lot of dumping fee increases is what I've been reading over the years. But I would have to venture a guess that that's probably some of their larger costs, I mean, but. Yeah, so I'm in agreement, I'll leave it at that.
Dylan, what do you think? Richard said.
Yeah, I'm in agreement as well.
There you go, we got, move forward with that, then, was it, then the other decision we make, we know that that's already made, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, all right, go ahead.
So now that you already made the decision, but this just broke down our, the trash by customers. And honestly, we do have, a lot of people who are becoming senior citizens in the township who obviously take advantage of the discount that we provide them. Because when my past numbers, and I looked over the years, you know, we've always maintained around 1,100, we're up to 1,300 senior family, and that's a 2-person, you know, because we make both residents be senior. So anyways, people do take advantage of it. So it's nice, that they're utilizing it. And this here was just what Mike was saying, you know, how we increased it over the years, and like I said, from 2021 to this year, it's 350, and now next year, or for the next 3 years, it's going to be 400. And now we can move on to our expenditures. This slide basically just breaks down by section of government, you know, our general government, which includes all the administration, plus IT. So it's very low, and historically, the general government function of the expenses really doesn't increase a whole lot. We maintain staff, so other than your personnel wages, we do pretty good with maintaining our costs to operate and to, you know, run essentially the administrative part of the township. So again, that only had like a $4,000-$5,000 increase in. So then on the next page, we have public safety, and as we all know, police is the most expensive department to run, and that's probably true for all municipalities. You know, it's the nature of what they do. The increase this year from budgeted is around 800,000. And that I believe is because I believe we hired more police officers last year than what we actually had budgeted in the budget. So it's a budgetary increase due to that. This budget does not include any of the recommended police officers that the chief wants to hire. So this is true, the 35 police we have, including the chief and 10 that we have on staff now. And then we broke it down. Some of the numbers fluctuate between administration, patrol, and investigation. That's because where we move employees to, because in community service, you see a big jump. It's really not a jump overall. First, you know, it's just switching. We moved the resource officers this year under that section. So yeah, and the fire relief, I just put in there, that's just the money we get from the state that we turn right back over to fire. So it's an in and out. So anyways, which I do have our new money. So the next department then would be Public Works. I did break out the sanitation part versus all the other stuff, the highways and streets. That had a small increase, a 2.6% increase. And the same with parks, actually parks was reduced. And that's because Karen will be retiring, so I did not put in a replacement position at this time. We did budget some money for that, but not as much as she would cost. So then the next slide, this is just our debt service, just to give you, because we will be talking on Monday about the refinancing of debt. This is just giving you what's out there, you know, what we pay each year. So it's 1.2, and that's how it's structured to maintain out, you know, that number doesn't really fluctuate too much. So that's how they structure the debt. So that was just a good little thing. And again, here's the nice little pie chart to just show you the pieces of it. Like we said, police has the biggest piece, Public Works being the next, all the rest of it. In line with basically how they. And then this slide is showing you the staffing. Usually it was flat for many years. We do have in 2024, it did increase. And again, that's primarily because of the police department. And the chief is requesting 2 new police officers. a police officer basically costs around $200,000 a year, and that's without any of their uniforms or equipment. I don't know really that cost per officer. That's just strictly how we budget for their overtime, their holiday time, their benefits, and everything. So that's what that is. So, and then this is just to tell you again, like everything else, you know, back 2 years ago, healthcare didn't increase as much as it did. We used to maintain a 3 to 4%. Now we're up to 8, 9%, and it has been for the past 3 years. And as employees of the township, we're very fortunate. We contribute very little, and we have a very rich plan, which I think we're all grateful for. And the Teamsters, I think for their contract can't go up more than 9%, so I did put in 9%. And now the Teamsters don't contribute to healthcare insurance, but the police officers and the rest of the administrative staff, we do. Very small amount, but we do contribute. So then this is just giving you, like I said, the biggest increase in everything is personnel costs. So this kind of breaks it up, what the personnel costs were and where we're at and where we're going to, and then the fringe benefit costs. So, you know, out of everything, like I said before, personnel is your highest expense. So, and this was just giving you a breakdown of the real estate tax revenue of what it costs, how much of that eats up by personnel costs, is kind of what I was saying there. And then this is just, everybody knows, you know, we have a good pension plan and our MMO payments for next year is, well, this year is 1.2, which I just paid.
Dawn, if I could just interject, because then we're gonna talk about the additional police staff.
Okay,
Don't forget that with the significant increase in police staffing, these numbers are gonna directly correlate into much higher numbers. So when we're talking about millage or adding PD and the staffing levels, don't forget, this is gonna go up substantially if we have.
yeah, I do have, yeah.
That's,
Yeah. Yeah, your 500 deficit is now gonna be almost $1 million budgetary deficit, but if you hire the 2 police officers. So then again, this was just, saying about the MMO, the MMO really didn't increase much from 2024 to what it's going to in 2025. So that's, and then this here, this is what Mike was talking about. This is showing you, the options, basically what we just discussed. This, our operating deficits at 503,000. If we hire 2 police officers, it takes you up to over 900,000. Then with the increase in trash fee, you're back down to where we started, almost a little bit higher than the budgetary deficit. So, and then option 2 would be hiring no additional staff. That's not included the police officers, I should say. And that gives you an operational deficit of about $150,000.
all right, Kenny. What do you wanna do? Kevin, you're the police.
Yeah. So earlier this year. For the general public who are listening in, so thank you. The 3 of you who showed up this spring. You know, in response to an incident that we had earlier in the year at Stoutsbury Playground, a shooting incident. I sat down, I attended a meeting, with Commissioner Malinowski, Chief Hoover, Jim. And we talked about, a response to that particular incident. When I talked to the chief afterwards, as we started to kind of follow up on that a little bit, I took the stance that, you know, we shouldn't just be looking at this one incident, that we really should be taking a broader view of what we need to do as a township to address crime in the township, the ability to kind of stay ahead of the curve a little bit. So in my direction, I had the chief draw a 5-year plan. I think, you know, most standard business practice, Mike, you can attest to this, I mean, most businesses are out looking at and building 5-year plans to begin with, so, I think the chief created one, took quite a while, put a lot of information into it. He also did a separate staffing plan. The idea behind that was to take a look at where we are today, where we expect to be, and some of the factors that drive crime in the township, and the police force that we have, and the work that they do. I think the staff that we have does an excellent job. You know, when you look at the report, you know, beside the city of Reading, Muhlenberg Township has the highest number of responses, number of calls in the entire county. I think that a lot of that has to do with our geographical position next to the city of Reading. And, you know, what we've seen historically is as the city steps up their efforts to combat crime, we start to see an increase here. A lot of that is creep, a lot of it's creep anyway, even if they weren't doing anything. You know, it doesn't move down to Mount 10, it doesn't move as much over to West Reading. It's just easier to move from the city to the township. There were 2 other shooting incidents, major shooting incidents that we had. And those things really worried me. We had one on the Kutztown Road, just brazen. I mean, you know, the actors in these situations are just becoming absolutely brazen. When you have guys just whipping out weapons on Kutztown Road, where you would think that those things would have happened years ago. And in a shooting not too far from where Commissioner Wolfinger lives, you know, that was a major incident too. So I go back to the plan. The plan in general, there are items in the plan that we can address even if we don't look to increase staff. The chief did a separate staffing analysis using a couple of different formulas based on population, based on average calls per officer, calls per number of residents. So there are a lot of factors. So one of the things that the chief and I talked about was where we are today, where we'd like to see us be within the next 5 years, and some of the reasons behind the increase in staff. One of my concerns, probably my biggest concern, is our ability to stay ahead of this curve. We can do nothing. We don't need to add the staff. And we can continue to approach crime the way we do today. But as we've done, like in beefing up codes not too long ago, the idea is to try to stay ahead of the curve, keep crime, to send this message out to those would-be actors and people that would want to come into this township and say, okay, we do take this very seriously. We don't want these things happening in this township. In looking at it from a public viewpoint, I haven't talked to anybody, any resident that is opposed to having an increase in the number of police officers. And to be able to pay for that. Obviously, it's just one of the services that we provide. You know, we are tasked with providing a lot of services in this township. But I do believe that the safety and welfare of our residents has to be one of our top priorities. I know that 2 officers that's a pretty big reach for the year. I'm concerned about the fact that we're coming in budget season with another deficit. And we will get to this discussion a little bit later too. You know, I know we borrowed from reserves to balance budget, and I'm not in favor of doing that again. I think the increase in the trash fee helps. I would put forth at least to hire 1 officer for the year. The chief is concerned, and you guys all read, already the plan and the staffing plan. We do have a number of officers who are gonna be eligible for the drop, in the next. In short duration of time. I know that, when officers do enter the drop. This is not normally something that they're gonna enter the drop and then within 2 months or so, they're gonna be gone. So there is some time there. But one of the things that the chief and I talked about, and again, I kind of look at it from the way I approach business. I look at bringing in additional staff, to start some training, to be able to bring people in so that suddenly you're not losing however many number of your staff that you have, and now you're trying to play catch up. I want to make sure that we have staff on board, that they're properly trained, that they understand the township that they're working in. So I would propose that we at least go hire one officer. I'll throw this out now. I would look to see some type of a millage increase for the year to help offset some of our deficit. I know for the last couple of years, for our newest commissioners, for many years, we sat here and I kind of said we probably should be bumping things up a little bit at a time. But we were able to make budget work without necessarily raising taxes. I know that the school district has raised taxes. I know the county's gonna be raised, if they haven't already, the county's gonna be looking to raise taxes. But regardless of those things, we still have services that we need to provide. So we haven't talked about firing yet. One of the reasons that I'm not looking for 2 police officers is because I know we're gonna be talking about additional career firefighters. That's a whole separate discussion, but from where I sit right now, I would like to propose at least one officer. And I would like to champion an increase. I would look at as much as 0.5 mil. To help cover deficit, and I'd also like to see us be able to maybe start putting some money back into reserve. We have a good amount of reserve. But if we have one major incident, we're gonna chew through that very quickly. We've been blessed that we've been able to use our reserve for the last couple of years. We've accomplished an awful lot. But like everybody else, we want to be able to start putting some money aside. So those are my thoughts. Chief Hoover is not here today. Lieutenant, thank you for sitting in. If there are questions, I believe Randy is, I'm not sure if he's trying to watch this online. He is at a seminar up in Boston right now for the next couple of days, and I look forward to meeting with him when he comes back. Talk about what he's learned up there. So again, just to kind of capsulize, I'm concerned about the number of calls that we get, just how busy this department is. I think the chief did an excellent job in outlining his concerns and putting forth a plan. I'd like to see us bump that head count up at least one officer. And I think we're gonna need to put our taxes up. All right, somebody had it.
I mean, I'll let
Somebody asked.
board members talk, I guess, and I didn't have enough time to honestly go back, I was looking at 25. Oh, God, and I guess I read through the chief's plan, and looking historically at the calls, I know they're up a little bit over prior years, if you look at the reports, but they seem to be doing okay, and I know those incidents are absolutely terrible, talked about, but I'm just not sure throwing people at it versus technology, as we talked about, is the best long-term plan. So we seem to be operating okay at like 30, 31, now we're at 35, now we're gonna go to 36, so then we just keep doing the same thing over and over again. I don't know if that's.
No, there is, if you look, in the plan, you know, the chief does outline, technology requests. So it's not, the chief is not of the impression that, you know, you just throw bodies at a problem and that's gonna.
Well, it does recommend 40
He does,
to 5 years,
for
so.
5 years,
With
but
that,
it's,
no more, we're not growing, our community's 22 population is not gonna be that much.
well, and one of my concerns
I'm just being
is,
that.
no, that's all right. And that's why we
We're
have
not
these,
trying to be.
no, that's why we have these discussions. You know, one of my concerns is, if we do remain at status quo. And calls continue to increase. You know, we've talked about being able to attract new residents into our community. And my fear is, and you know, you've seen this to our neighbors to the south. If we do nothing, if you maintain what you have and we watch our number of calls increase, or the types of calls become more impactful than what we had. Residents are gonna start to look at this community and are gonna be, yeah, I don't know that I wanna go there. And then what will happen is people who are moving in, and I've seen it in my own neighborhood, are folks who can afford to buy a house. But now they can't afford the upkeep on the house. And, you know, property values will start to come down, those issues start to increase, and we're gonna end up behind the curve. And then we're gonna have to start to play catch up, and people are not gonna wanna come to this community. Businesses are not gonna wanna invest in this community, because they're gonna look at growing crime rates and they're gonna say, well, what are you doing to combat this? And we've talked about, all the things that attract people, the parks that we have, the types of programs that we offer. And I think we're at a tipping point here where if we don't look to increase our staff and we don't look to make some other recommendations internal within the department in conjunction with technology. And I'm not saying that, you know, you need to throw 100 police officers in the field because that's not going to deter everything. But in order to attract and retain officers, I think we need to address this now because I want to keep those numbers. I want to keep the volume of incidents down so that we can attract people to come into this community who can afford to pay for the services that we're offering. I don't know, Mike addresses.
No, I don't know, and Lieutenant, I guess I just have to ask for just your general question is, is hiring more police officers gonna make the incident and call rate go down?
I don't think it will make the call rate.
Yeah.
It'll allow us to better handle those incidents promptly and efficiently. Sure.
So from that, it's the recurring cost of adding additional staff. I understand Commissioner Lynch's point, and I'm not disagreeing with the point in general. I'm half struggling, and if one's the number, then I could probably, I'm struggling with just continuing to grow staff at it, and the chief did a great plan, because then there's fleet, there's equipment, there's pension, there's all this other stuff that, you know, like running any other business, you'd love to be able to say, I'd love to hire five people just in case. But that's just not the way the world works because expenses are so tight. But if we really believe we need one, because at least one, because we are doing the new SRO, I know Kevin and the chief are looking, and I still want us to forget about the other technology impacts, because if we have 40, I just don't see us building up that much, you know, we're pretty landlocked and population, I can't see it increasing too much. Anyway, I'll shut up. But that's what I'm struggling with here is that it's, you know, it just, when you just throw people at it, I don't know if that necessarily is the greatest opportunity to do what we want to do long term, but I couldn't. Anyway, you guys, go ahead, I'm sorry. No,
I think we should at least hire one, because I think, like Kevin said, about safety is first. People look around as, you know, where the safety area, shooting or anything like that, robbers, people look at that kind of stuff. Now, when you are moving into the area. And this past summertime, we had actually down the river and that stuff, we had extra cops on with overtime and that, you know, that could knock down with the calls. hire, want to do more cops. And people look at safety more now than ever. And township would have moved into. I'm favor, hire one cop, plus tax increases, to me. You should raise taxes every year, so everything else goes up, nothing, if you don't raise taxes, everything going up, and you'll be the jam down the road. Counting that stuff, you get it. The trouble, you don't raise nothing, flat, the bills keep going up every year. You have to do something, make it even, keep taking forward, not put it back in, short money down the road.
Mr. Cerulli?
Is there any way we could have an executive session?
Sure.
I feel like I have some questions that to discuss.
Yeah,
Can I speak my mind?
absolutely.
For the three people out here. And the people looking on TV tonight, it's nice having this debate. You know, when I became a commissioner 10 years ago, I left my fellow commissioners know that I was fiscally conservative. We went 6 years without having an increase in the general fund tax. And you know, we've nickel and dime, we've been lucky. We got federal money thrown at us, we've had a lot of extra money that we didn't think we were getting from transfer tax. We've always really watched where we spend our money, and we don't waste our money. And in hindsight 2020, I should have went for school board instead of this position with my, well, feelings.
Well, that's two different things. Don't sit there and say you can save money in school districts. You got a bigger budget. School districts got a lot bigger budget.
That's true. And in any case, we went 6 years without an increase in monies coming in the general fund. And, you know, you know, we can't not increase taxes because other agencies are increasing taxes. Personally, I didn't go along with two officers, I went with one officer. I didn't go 0.5 mils, but I think maybe 0.2, because in talking to Dawn, she thinks that we always are looking at the worst case scenario, and maybe we can cover things that way. And if we do better, we can put money back into a reserve. It's nice to be able to put money in reserve. But I just, I think this year is the time to increase taxes for the general fund. And that's just my opinion. I think we should go for 5. However, you know, looking at the fire fund, that's another issue. You know, looking at, and I go on calls that the fire companies get. Just a couple days ago, we had 7 calls. We're getting more and more calls that we're having about, and I think the days of just having volunteer firefighters is coming to an end. So I think maybe we have to have an increase in that extent. But I like the idea in the 5-year plan where the chief looked for another LT, another lieutenant. And not to have a person sit at a desk. But I think freeing up the time of sergeants and getting the sergeants out on the street would help the police department in dealing with issues on the street rather than have the sergeant sitting in the office. And having an LT dealing with the paperwork that they normally do, I think that would help overall getting out and dealing with different issues on the street. I like the fact that we're looking down the road in 5-year plans to be doing it. I'm not here to throw money at just throw money at issues or have hire people to have them sit at the desk. But I think 6 years we didn't go without an increase in the general fund. I think it's time.
And if I could, before we break for executive session, I want to clarify something for the public. When I say that the chief put a staffing plan together and comes up with a head count that he's looking for. I don't want the general public to think that Chief Hoover just kind of threw a dart at a board and said, here's the number that I want. There are a number of different staffing formulas for officers that he looked at and ran. And using a combination of those formulas is how he arrived at the number that he did. And as someone who works professionally for staffing for major businesses, those are the types of things that I would do as a manager. You run different formulas to say, here's where you're at, here's the workload, here's the amount of time that it takes to get to perform a particular task or a combination of tasks. And then you kind of use a blending of those formulas to come up with your staffing projections. So I just don't want people to think that somebody's sitting here saying, I need X number of people because this is what I think. There's a lot of data that's in the plan. So I just want to leave it with that before we break to address some of Mr. Cerulli's questions.
Well, we'll adjourn to executive session. Jim, just for the minutes, make a note of the time, it's 8:47. All right, and then we'll be back.
Before you break, could we just have 5 minutes?
Absolutely, Linda, go ahead.
Because
Sorry.
we have the craft fair.
Oh, yeah, come on up.
Okay. Yeah. We'll be short on reason.
Linda is passing out some of Melissa Carroll, directors over at Muhlenberg Community Library. I hope you all are well this morning. I wanted to start off by thanking all of you. First of all, I'm not sure if many of you know, I've lived in Florida for 31 years, St. Petersburg. The way the libraries down there are run very differently. I sat in on a lot of meetings, very cold city meetings, not that they weren't great people. Coming here and being surrounded by the Muhlenberg community has really made me feel like I'm at home. Being able to speak with all of you, many of you have come into the library and I've seen you and I've worked with you. And it makes me extremely happy that the town is so involved in library going on here. I would especially like to thank the Parks and Recs Department. Kelly and Heather and especially Karen have been so kind and so informative and helpful to the library, whether it's programming or things that we need. Karen is always there to help me get things going. Last year, I don't know if you all are aware, we had over 500 patrons at our trunk or treat. The parking got a little hairy. It was my first time having that many people there. Karen came right in, fixed the parking situation, and we were good to go again. So I just like to take this time to thank Karen, especially for everything that she's helped me guidance through this whole period of change, going from youth services to directors over at the library. We would like to thank you for everything that you do for us. We've had a lucky year. We were able to get a grant. We've made a lot of changes to the library this year. Next year, we plan on continue to grow. We are trying to serve our community the best way we can. Next year, we're going to start trying to build our adult and our senior programs. Our children, our youth service programs have been has grown so much in the last couple of years. We're working with the school a lot closer now. We actually have the entire C.E. Cole Middle School, C.E. Cole 4th, 5th, and 6th coming into the library on library visits twice a month. So that not only helps the library, but it helps the school and all the children in our community because they don't have the library services in the school that they really should have. So we're stepping up and being so close to them. It makes it just so easy for us to work back and forth together. Linda passed out some really great information for you guys. In November, we have an amazing Breast Cancer Coalition event going on. You are all invited. We're hoping that we can show all of our new renovations along with celebrating the people in the county. There'll be there'll be a big exhibit, reception. We really hope to see all of you there. Yeah. Then we also have today, as Linda stated, we have our craft fair going on. It's one of our biggest fundraiser of the year. So if you guys do get out and have a little time, please come on over to the craft fair over at the high school. We also have our annual open house going on in December 7th. And our Trail of Lights, if you see on the back, which is December 14th, which is a great fundraiser that we do every year.
That's what, the Trail of Lights is with the parks. Yards.
And we also just had our family fun fest last weekend, which we were there and we were able to make over $400 for the library, painting pumpkins. So we look forward to working with the township in the upcoming years and just keep growing our relationship and making it stronger.
Thank you for everything you do for us.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Sure.
Oh.
Yeah, we're ready.
Well, I always move forward.